ladies and men. They're not gentlemen at all. They're not gentlemen at all. Hi, lucky girl. Good to see you today. This is Beth is here. Always a joy. This is Beth. Is always a fantastic mod. By the way, I need to shout her out. User not found. What are we talking about today? We're talking about men today. Hello, Kiss Star Kiss. Always a joy. Thank you for coming. Yes, this topic today is about men. And I shake my head. It's gentle ladies and men. I don't even want to call them men. I don't want to call them. Thank you, Freddie. Hi, good to see you. Yeah. What we need another word for this men word. You, of course, yes, you are welcome. Thank you, Kruger. Right, if you guys can see in the background, that's me. That's me. So this here is me. This is a police officer. And the guy behind my head here, down here, was somebody who I enraptured. And this ended up going viral in 2019. Yes, 2019, and it went everywhere. And it's funny because it was literally somebody who follows me on here who mentioned it. And I thought, let's bring this into the conversation. Why do I not talk enough about how I'm actually a dominatrix? I mention it sometimes, but I think this is really important to actually talk about and discuss. So I've spent, let's see now, so 2009 was when I first started dominatricing. And that is when I first started to really understand men and what they do and what they don't do, which is a lot. They don't do a lot. The one thing that they do very well is when they can admit it, is submit to women and accept that women are the superior beings. They accept that women are always right. They accept that women are the future. And those men are the ones who are part of the future. Otherwise, they are finished. And as I started typing out those bits underneath there, right? So I thought, let me think about the ways in which men are finished. Mentally, physically, I put financially, emotionally, intellectually. And I'm thinking, what other ways are they finished? Let me Google. It turns out I was talking about the 8 pillars of wellness. Do you know this 8 pillars of wellness, Bard Lucy? No. Okay. Yes. So this is the 8 pillars of wellness. You can Google it.
I didn't know what your topic was today. So I'm a bit like, wait, well, that's a topic.
Yeah. Exactly. So this 8 pillars of wellness, right, are ways and means that humans can evolve and actually support themselves. So these are the 8 pillars. Mentally, physically, socially, financially, emotionally, intellectually, occupationally, environmentally, and spiritually. And I was thinking about all of these ways as it pertains to myself. I have not met a man in my 42 years that has excelled in any one of those groups, any one of those categories. They might start being okay, but then what happens very quickly, because we're women, right? We see men for who they are. Everything is fake to start with. And then when we start to see them, they're like, oh shit, I can't hide anymore. And then the truth comes out and you see that they're not mentally stable. The physical side of things, because they can't actually regulate themselves emotionally, they think punching people is a good idea. And generally, more women are going in the gym. Truly, when I would go to the gym, I would be lifting heavier than the men. Truly. And story, when I was 12, I was arm wrestling the boys in my class and the male teachers. Guess how many beat me? 0. Not even the teacher. I drew with one male teacher. None of them can beat me. None. There is not a man I've met so far in my life that has ever been able to wow me completely. You're finished. Aerodynamic, you feel attacked. I'm telling the truth. This is all the truth. Yeah, I beat the teachers. Yeah, I arm wrestled them all. I was like, come on. At 12, up until I was 15, I was arm wrestling. The strongest boys in the class. Thank you, this is Beth. I was arm wrestling them all. And it was really it became a really good thing in the classroom. Like, oh, will you arm wrestle this teacher? Yeah, piece of piss. Yeah, I can arm wrestle them, no problem. But Lucy, have you got any story? Well, I know you have got stories and observations for what you had.
So many. So, like, I'm not at the stage right now where I want to say not all men, okay? Because I actually think that every guy has work to do, just like every woman who looks like me has some work to do in other areas, shall we say, but that's not the topic of this discussion. But what I would say is that I think a lot of men are waking up to the fact that patriarchy has sold them short and do not know what to do with themselves. And it's that terror of not knowing what to do with yourself when the systems that have given you all this like privilege and all this power, made all these excuses for you, no longer work. What have you got? How have you developed yourself? Have you done your emotional healing? Have you gone to therapy? Or if you can't afford therapy, because not everybody can, okay, have you gone and got a therapy workbook and worked through that? Okay, have you gone and learned a musical instrument? Have you got like anything to lift yourself and develop on the inside? And so many men relate to women from this like sort of internal broken record, which fucks them up so badly that they can't move themselves forward. They resent everybody, especially women whom they blame for everything. Okay, and then of course, like it didn't surprise me in the least to learn how you made your living, Fox. Because I'm looking here and I'm actually even wearing my leather hat, which has many roles today. So I'm not saying like all the context I wear my leather hat on. But basically, I have some experience possibly in the same communities as you, Fox, okay? And what I have noticed is that a lot of men are told they must be in charge, they must be this kind of thing, and inside, they know that that's not the right thing for them. And, you know, and then I see them kind of like desperately trying to crawl and get competent, strong women's attention all the time, like me, love me, do me, you know, like here's my list of like requirements for the woman in my life, but also I want her to be in charge, which I find kind of hilarious as well. So I think there's a lot of what the current society does is it warps men's perceptions, emotional relationship to themselves, and then they act out of that constantly. So it's not like saying that every single man on this planet is going to be like that, but every single one of them has benefited from the system that keeps women down and actually damages them in the process. So it's about unlearning all these like harmful things, and it's okay to want to like not be in charge all the time, and maybe that's the best thing for you. A lot of men,
yeah, absolutely. It is a case of them escaping the lie. And History Poet in the comment section says traditional masculinity, patriarchal norms, or provider role pressure must be hard for some men. We don't doubt that. However, it's 2026. There is, I mean, you mentioned therapy and not being able to afford therapy. I mention this all of the time because I've used it myself. NHS therapy is wonderful. Even this morning, we had a quick conversation actually on live talking about it. And sometimes when you have a therapist, sometimes it doesn't work out. You're not compatible with the therapist, but you have to keep trying. You can't just give up with this kind of stuff. You can't give up. You have to keep going. And in 2026, there really is no excuses for men. Truly, the conversations are global when we're talking about men. There's no reasons for them to not know what they're supposed to be doing in life now. Truly, there isn't. I think every single person on this planet always comes with some inherent knowing, whether you're going to be a mother or you're going to be an animal rearer or something. There's always these tiny little signs about what kind of person you're going to be in life. And these signs will keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger as you get older. Generally, most of the signs on the planet are be a good person. So if you're not going to be a good person and you're hurting people or you're hurting yourself, then that's when you should say, do you know what? I actually need to get some help for this. Let me see what I can do. And especially because men in their education, they've been like, yeah, all I need to do is go to the gym. Oh, working out now is the way that actually you deal with your mental health. No, because no matter how much work you're doing in the gym, nothing's getting fixed. You're just getting a bit leaner in the body. What's that got to do with your mind? That is a temporary fix. You need to do things that are long term. Lucy.
Yeah, actually, so I was thinking about how many men use the acquisition of either physical prowess, like lifting weights or something like that, or acquiring technical skills over emotional work and emotional labor. And a lot of men who do therapy, okay, will very often end up with a female therapist, okay, and that is still like turning to a woman to like sort the emotional stuff out. And sometimes it behoves you to actually do the work. I'm not saying like don't go to a therapist, okay? What I am saying is have a think about the dynamics that are actually at play when you're seeking help, guys, if you're actually listening to this. Because are there implicit biases in what you're thinking? Are you expecting women to do emotional labor for you? Okay, is that an expectation that you have? And so I personally find, like for my own, because I have PTSD, the Compassion Focused Therapy Workbook is a wonderful workbook that you can work through in like little stages. Okay, and it will force you to think about yourself and actually incorporate those things into your life. I think that with a lot of, I don't know how you've felt, like, because I've watched the way you interact with guys here, or more accurately, the way men interact with you here. Okay, do you think that when a man sort of leads with humiliating statements like tearing women down and so forth, that he's actually projecting what he wants himself? In this kind of thing, I was listening to, I think her name is Sedona, who, and she had opinions on that. So I'd be very interested to know what you had to say.
Is this Mistress Sidonia, blonde-haired lady with glasses?
No,
sometimes.
It's Sedona Violet. She's a woman of color, I think, but she has a similar way of earning her living to you. And her opinion was that when a man leads with humiliating statements, that is usually a sign that he's projecting how he wants to be treated onto the woman that he's talking to. And I was wondering, I'm going like, oh, that's an interesting insight, because I've noticed that. Like I've when a man like leads like that with me, I'm going like, you couldn't top your way out of a paper bag, darling. You couldn't top a pizza. Okay, and I just like immediately in there with degrading or humiliating statements, like just casually, like in Twitter conversations, on TikTok, and this things. So, I would be very interested to know what you had to think about that one as we're having this discussion.
Yeah, so the way when guys come up here is so funny, and actually you've brought up a perfect example of what happened this morning. So some of you ladies were here this morning in chat, and there was one man who came, and I was on the beach this morning. I was with my dogs. I was having a great time. And the first thing he said when he came into the chat, I don't even know what we were talking about. Nothing, just like general conversation, talking about the world, la, la, la. The first thing he said was, of course you'd have a black dog. And we're like, yeah, this is Beth, you remember? We're like, what? Like, why would you say that? Like, what's that got to do with anything? What? What? I literally have many different dogs of different colors. Like I showed my beige dog that you guys have seen, my puppy. I've had 3 dogs before. They were all different colors. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Clearly you wanted to be racist, clearly. So I was like, what the hell? And he was like, calm down, it's a joke. And we were like, but where's the joke? Like, it's meant to be funny. It's meant to be funny.
And simply, I don't understand what Maestro X is saying. Maestro, could you explain yourself if you're still in the chat? Because I don't understand that comment. Could you expand on it?
Yeah, so they've said, how come feminine fine women, what does that mean, with good attitude don't have these challenges? What challenges? I don't understand. But I'll continue this. I'll continue the story. So he basically was just talking about just all silly things, trying to say that it's a joke and everybody should calm down and you should smile more. You know, all those stupid things that they say. It was ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. And because they were the only, actually at the time, the Toxic Phantom was there. He was the only man that was really trying to get attention because clearly he was very lonely. So I said, well, clearly you're very lonely because you're not talking about anything else that we're talking about. You're diverting the conversation to yourself, right? They weren't actually these lives are group talks. But then sometimes you have some person who's just like, I'm going to make it about myself. I go, okay. Okay. So Maestro, you're up on the panel. You want to explain your comment? We didn't quite understand what you meant.
All right. Thank you very much. Peace and blessings be upon the room. I'm not excited on your ongoing discussion, but my observation, I've just finished work within the last 5 minutes, then I joined your live. I think in reality, what we're finding across society is a lot of complaining, a lot of moaning, a lot of grievance towards modern day society, and it's coming from both sides. But from a feminine divine energy perspective, what I find based on observation, right? We're not kids, we've been around the world, we've lived life, is that people who are having their needs and demands met by way of simply being able to exist in that, divine feminine nature don't necessarily have this type of talking points where they set up a prompt to say men are finished, right? So I think maybe sometimes you have to look within. Maybe there's something you're doing wrong. You have to cross-examine self, right? So this is a message to the collective.
So the funny thing is, Maestro, is we literally just talked about projection, sir. We just talked about projection and you missed that part. You missed it, Maestro. Divine feminines are all about balancing the masculine and feminine energy. Don't tell a divine feminine that she's not a divine feminine, first of all, Maestro. Balancing the masculine and feminine energy means that you actually have the ability to see the vastness of life and talk in reality about it. The fact of the matter is, where are the divine masculines, Maestro? We are a group of women here, and generally a lot of the time it is only conversations with women that actually end up being productive. In your spaces, Maestro, when you're going to talk to other men, what happens in your spaces, Maestro? Tell me about that. Tell me about the TikTok lives that you go to. Are men talking over each other all of the time? Are they too busy trying to prove themselves right? Tell us about these masculine and divine masculine men that you've come across, Maestro.
All right, I'm a bit confused because I feel like you're trying to draw me into some type of debate or argument, but that's not what I'm here to do, right? I'm only going to state one.
Maestro, you came up here and tried to tell me that I was not a divine feminine. I'm asking you, where do you see divine masculines? There is no argument, there is no debate. You brought yourself up here to talk about the topic. I'm also conversing with you. Don't be so sensitive over this conversation. Where are you finding divine masculines, please?
All right. I'm not really sure what you're talking about. It's not really clear. Maybe my brain is still recalibrating based on work. All I'm trying to say is there's two types of people in this world, right? The ones who know how to get on with society and align from a bi-directional sexual perspective, and they are the other ones, the laggards who struggle, right? So when you project certain elements of your particular belief system, all it does is indicate to people that know how to spot this this dichotomy from a perspective of, well, maybe she's not getting what she needs, It's just a fact. What I'm trying to emphasize is how come certain women don't have these challenges, but what we're finding is some people do have these challenges. So it's the onus on you perhaps to be able to fix self before you come outside to spew your particular rhetoric on public stages. That's just my
if I may, Michael, okay, because I think I understand what you're saying here. So, from my perspective, we have a situation. I'm just going to give you one example, okay, and then I want you to think about that example and then tell me what you think back, because I'd be really interested to know what you had to say. A few weeks ago, there was a group discovered on the internet which was teaching men how to incapacitate the women in their lives, incapacitate them, and schmexually assault them, okay, while they were unconscious. Within 1 month, okay, that website had 62 million separate hits on that website, okay? They have discovered other WhatsApp groups of like tens of thousands of men on Discords, on groups, and so on and so forth, okay? So understanding what you know about the quote-unquote divine feminine and divine masculine autonomy, okay, can you at least give some perspective on what the problem is here? Is it society? Okay, in which case in this case, why should a woman like Fox or a woman like myself want to engage with such a society? Or do you think it is the woman's fault that those websites exist? Okay, can you give me a perspective on that?
Right. Well, this is very interesting information. I wasn't aware about what you said, but based on what you've described, I can tell from the undertone that this is not a particular problem with my demographic, right? I'm a BLK man. I think these challenges stem from specifically whitey community, Asian community, and Arab community men. So you are best positioned to engage those men to understand. We don't have this type of challenge from a black man's standpoint. I hope that addresses your question.
Okay, all right. So in South Africa, okay, there is and I'm speaking here about South African society, which is a majority African country. Because of the impact of capitalism on that society and the way patriarchy has become entrenched, many women of color are reporting in that society schmexual assault and rape within that context from their own community. Okay, so while I absolutely accept that white men are completely rancid, okay, and I'm fully with you on that one, okay, you can't say that this doesn't exist within global majority countries, okay? It is a global issue of violence against women and girls, and that has been well attested by everything. And I say this with absolute due respect because I am well aware that white men are absolutely rancid and violent towards women and girls. So with that perspective, okay, what's your thoughts on that?
All right, so my thoughts are very straightforward. I think because in South Africa, I believe that's where you said you're from, right? The indigenous population have been associated with a particular behavioral pattern, and that pattern comes from the Caucasians, right? So this is why they're displaying said behavior, which is not organic or authentic to the African continent. What they're doing is they're cosplaying and they're copying whitey men and their behavioral patterns due to colonization. So this is one of the impacts of degenerate behavior passed through or passed down due to colonialism, right? That's the result of intermingling cultures which have no business being associated with one another.
Shall we bring the
So,
topic a little bit back to actually why the reason is Maestro the reason why he came up? He was basically saying, for those of you who are joining, that this topic is for women who are underdeveloped. And this is for women who have not balanced their internal energies and they are insecure. And this is what Maestro was saying. So I asked him to clarify, where have you seen divine masculines? Because he is the one that said divine feminine. Maestro has not been able to answer that question so far. I feel like it's a very straightforward question. Very straightforward question. I'll give you an example of a divine masculine I met this morning. Some of you guys who were here on the live this morning know about this. My dogs, very lovely dogs. One of my dogs is a bit bigger. He's very explorative. He runs around. Maestro has just run away. So one of these dogs just went. And I all of a sudden heard barking. And I heard a huge whistle. And I went outside and I see 3 dogs surrounding my dog. And they come running. So, of course, my dog comes running to me, tries to hide behind me. And all the dogs came around and I'm like, relax, calm down. Like, everything's cool. Everything's cool. The man immediately says to me, you're so calm around dogs. I'm like, yeah, I love dogs. I'm really loving dogs. And also, when you have a calm energy, everything else around you as well is calm. Like, animals feed off your energy. And he's like, I never see people so relaxed around animals. I'm like, well, yeah, again, if you've healed yourself and you actually understand animals, then that's the behavior you should have. And then we got into this amazing conversation. He told me he was 68 years old. He's German. He'd lived, actually, funny enough, in the country I'm in as well, 4 years as well. And then he just said, you have your third eye wide open. You know, when he started talking about the 5th dimension and all kinds of stuff. And I was literally like this, so happy to have this conversation, because the night before, I actually had a dream that my mother came to me and said, oh, I'm going to go down to that beach with the cafe. And I was like, do you know what? I've been thinking about going to this beach for quite some time. So my mother told me in a dream last night, go there. I went there. And I was at the beach really early this morning. It was like probably 6:30 in the morning, 7:30 or something. So nobody else was at the beach. And actually, the beach I go to doesn't get very busy. There was just him and me. And we had this amazing conversation. Divine feminine to divine masculine. It was a beautiful, beautiful conversation. He was telling me about his wife. He was telling me about his 6 children, 2 from his wife and 4 from himself. They've been married for 18 years, talking about just how they've managed to evolve as people. He is something like let me just check it up, actually, because I keep forgetting what he actually does, because when we exchange contact details, it comes up on his WhatsApp, what he actually does. And it all started to make sense. So hold on, let me click his profile. Let's click his picture. So he is, why is it so small? Oh, here we go. He's a self-healing naturopath, chiropractor, and psychotherapist, business economist. That is a divine masculine. Like, his energy, I say, was so good. And we were so talking about things on such a beautiful, beautiful level. So when you have somebody like Maestro who's coming up here and projecting, how can somebody who's not a healed masculine know what a healed feminine is? How can somebody who's not a divine masculine know what a divine feminine is? They are unable. They are unable. Lucy.
I think also just noting what Maestro was saying there. So when I challenged him on like this whole like women should fix themselves and then they won't have these problems, and when we pointed out that these are society-wide problems in many countries, both in the global north and the global south, he automatically took that back to white colonization. In other words, white patriarchy. In other words, the system set up to damage men and stunt their growth, okay? And then that basically messes up the world. So after that conversation, he stopped projecting and took it to white patriarchy and colonization, which was correct. And where did all this blaming women for not fixing themselves come from? Because at the end of the day, the logical conclusion, okay, is that it is white patriarchy that causes these problems, that hurts men, that causes them to shrink inside, to ignore their spiritual growth and this kind of thing. And when you do meet a man who, like your naturopath friend, who has kind of like broken out of those molds, it is actually amazing to watch that masculinity unpoison itself. And that's the key thing, is that it's not toxic masculinity, it's poisoned masculinity. This is something that is done to men from a very, very early age. And it is possible to unpoison yourself. It's possible to detox. But it's very interesting that Maestro came up here trying to like teach women, okay, and teach his sister to be a better woman, okay. When challenged, he immediately goes, "Oh well, it is the patriarchy. It is colonization that did these things." He went right to the answer. That's the answer, okay? Why are you asking women to undo this, okay? Placing all the burden on women's behavior, policing women, policing their tone, policing your sisters, okay? Why are you not like unpoisoning yourself rather than projecting it all onto there? So it's just my...
We always know it's easier for men to pass blame. So much easier. And doing the work is difficult, but again, there is no excuse. There's no excuse. You see, he was immediately deflecting, talking about the South African thing actually is really interesting, because I was doing some research on, on serial unalivers. South Africa has the 3rd highest rate in the world. And actually, this is back to, because I saw, what's his name again? News Daddy. What's his name? The News Daddy guy. I forget, the guy. I can't remember his name. So he did this report, I think, back in 2023. Good to see you, Romaine. 2023. And of course, the second and third was England and then United States. We're very aware that they have very poor relationships with women and want to unalive us all the time. But the 3rd highest was South Africa. So actually, it was really interesting that you brought that up. But the fact of the matter is he was trying to deflect clearly from the subject. And the topic here is men are finished. This, again, I didn't really want to go down race and understand and separate, because it's all men that are a problem. I've dated all men. And like I say, it's from personal experience and from the things that I see. Yes, there are certain communities that do a little bit more, like we see with the Epstein files, etc., etc. But the topic is how they actually deal with and interact with women. Generally, women have not found them safe mentally, physically, socially, financially, emotionally, intellectually, occupationally, environmentally, and spiritually around men, because they haven't healed these parts of themselves. That's what happens. As soon as they actually address these parts, they become better human beings. This is not just about relationships. This is about how you deal with your mother. This is how you deal with your sister. This is how you deal with your daughters and even your sons. What lessons are you passing on to your children? We had somebody on the live, was it last week? Let me try and remember what the topic was. Men aren't protectors, right? It was men aren't protectors of women and children. And we had a guy up here in English. I said it was English men, sorry, aren't protectors of women and children. And he was on the panel for quite some time, talking. And then he started to say, oh, but I want a traditional woman, which means they want to go back to the 1920s where women didn't have any rights. They didn't have any independence. They didn't have their own money. They were basically all of these things in reverse, right? They were not mentally well. They were not physically well. They were not socially well. They were not financially well, emotionally well, intellectually well, occupationally well, environmentally well, and spiritually well, because the patriarchy and men kept keeping them down. So he wanted to go back to those times because he was so insecure and could not deal with a woman of 2026. And in the end, guess what happened? He crashed out and said the most horrendously disgusting racism against Black people and Muslims. We were talking about English men and women and children. He went back to his default, which is racism. That's what he did.
it does always at some point come back to the idea about how the world and how the system that we live under is actually set up. I mean, my view is like when you meet a man who has actually done the work, unpoisoned himself, okay, has that, like, I mean, personally, you know, I have, you know, a bit of a, you know, a thing for like kind of like dark, edgy masculinity, a man fully embodying himself, okay, that is acting from a place of empowerment, not power over other people, but because it takes so much work to unlearn and unpoison yourself when you're in a position of privilege. It takes so much noticing, so much like self-awareness and this kind of thing. When you hear the but, just like, kick it or kiss it, there's always a but, isn't there? You know, and there's a...
Yeah, in the comment section, Mazzy has just said, when you hear that but, and this is exactly what men do. I'm not blah, 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 or I'm so-and-so, but...
And it takes real introspection. And what I would also say is that if you are in a group which is privileged, okay, it's kind of the same engineering that you have to do if you are in a privileged group. You kind of have to do the like take what you know from your experience of being underprivileged, okay, or having people have power over you, and apply that knowledge to positions where you are the one with the privilege. So this is mostly what I'm saying is to women who look like me, okay, because we're very good at being the buffer class to really crappy male behavior, making excuses for them, okay, buffering them emotionally, shock absorbing their emotional dysregulation, okay. What I am noticing is that a lot of women now are saying, actually, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to have a boyfriend, actually. Yeah, I'm happy with my girlfriends, okay? Yeah. I don't want a boyfriend, okay? That's what he's competing with. He's not competing with other men. He's competing with her friend group, okay? That's who he's competing with. If you cannot add to that woman's life the way her friends add to it, you know, that's it basically. You know, and that's why you see so many, like, men as a collective are crashing out right now. I want a traditional women where women have no rights. Well, you're boring and miserable and terrible in bed. How about that? Okay, boring, miserable, terrible in bed. How can you be a proper lover with an attitude like that? Okay, tell me that you're crap in bed without telling me you're crap in bed.
Oh my goodness, yeah. There are so many things that men need to actually address and work on, and I think talking about the physical side of things and having physical relationships with women and intimacy, that's where it always gets lost. Like, they judge their skill based on, you know, how they feel actually. It's nothing to do with actually the real feedback of the woman. So, you know, a lot of the time when they're in bed together, it is just they're thinking of their own ego, whether they're performing rather than actually making the woman happy. Of course, we're just talking about cisgendered relationships here, heterosexual relationships. And again, what's the first thing they normally do is they go back and tell their mates about it. They'll go and tell their mates about it. Of course, women discuss it as well, but it's from a different aspect, really. And again, the modern woman is more about, you know, the intimacy and the connection. Like I say, the emotional connection, really getting deep with somebody is so important. And, you know, it's just very, very frustrating that we just seem to be such different people. But Pedro and Domingo in the chat says, very interesting topic. Do you think that modern men are dead? I think it is the old school. Let me think, actually. Let me say between the ages of maybe 35 and upwards are probably dead. And actually, yeah, probably 35, maybe even I would say 30. Although, if you guys have seen these Tommy marches, the boys that are on these right-wing marches are kids about 18 to 25 years old, like thinking it's a football game, and they're like, "Whoa, come on, Tommy, come." Like, if you've seen the footage, it's hella embarrassing. So I feel like generally men are dead. So whether they're modern or old school, I think most of them actually are. Like I say, I feel like it's a real problem in society, because I genuinely do not have enlightening conversations with men in my everyday, except for my dad. You know, I've talked about him many times on this platform. He's the first person I call to talk about my dreams, to talk about spirituality, to talk about financial problems, to talk about emotional problems I'm having, mental health problems. Like, my dad is the person I call now, which is so amazing, because our relationship has grown in such incredible ways in the last few years. And like I said, the man on the beach that I met this morning was wonderful. He was 68. My dad's in his 70s. So, you know, with all age groups, that you're going to find one or two gems amongst the shit. That's basically what happens sometimes. Like, if you find a few diamonds, but generally, like our generation, is that we are, as women, like myself, and I mentioned it this morning, we are the first generation of women to put our careers first, to put our money first, to put our independence first, to put our emotions first. And it is so freeing. We are decentering men, and it's making us the happiest we've ever been in life. And I know that a lot of family members get very concerned when they have a single daughter or a single friend. You know, the friend's always like, "Oh, when are you going to get married? When you're in a relationship?" It's like, yes, we would like to. But a man doesn't know how to do it. Like, he literally doesn't know how to do it. I was on another live, and this man was talking about marriage, and I'm like, but do you even know how to date women? Like, to get to the point of marriage, do you even know the steps it takes to get there? No, they don't, because they're still crying about having to split a bill for dinner. 25, 50-50, we need to go 50-50 because women are independent now. We don't pay for it's freaking dinner, and you're being so pedantic over food. It's ridiculous. So we got Simon, the anarchist, in the comments section saying, "Yeah, you despise all men." No, we're honest about men. We're honest about you, because you can't be honest about yourselves. And you're saying that I can center myself without preaching hatred. Again, this is this insecure, fragile man who can't separate himself. We got men in the comments section, by the way, Simon, who aren't crashing out like yourself. We've got men who are asking questions, men who are actually understanding the prompt there, are being here and actually being supportive of the women. Simon, you are the one who is mentally, physically, socially, financially, emotionally, intellectually, occupationally, environmentally, and spiritually finished. It is you. You crashed out by making a comment saying that I hate all men, which is exactly what men do when they don't understand the conversation. Lucy.
Sorry, Box. We have just actually spent 5 minutes, or at least 10 minutes, talking about the wonderful men in our lives who have unpoisoned themselves, okay? We've actually just about dark, edgy masculinity, about the unpoisoned masculinity, how amazing it is when we meet men like this, okay? And all you can do is crash out because your ego is the size of St. Paul's Cathedral and someone's come along with a pin and popped it. Come on, Simon, okay? Just why don't you just sit and listen with your listening ears, friend? And this is the problem, is that women have to kind of gentle parent you, like a kindergarten teacher going like, friend, we've got our listening ears open, okay? Fox is speaking, all right? Why don't you listen to what she is actually saying, okay? Listen to what, okay, there's a bit of an inflammatory prompt. It's there to generate, it's TikTok, it's a circus, all right? Sit and listen, be challenged, be curious, okay, about what is going on. Because let me tell you something, as TikTok's resident spicy, dark academic bisexual, let me tell you something about this. Men of my generation grew up thinking it was difficult to please a woman in intimate situations. Let me tell you how easy it is to get a woman off. Okay? It is easy. Easy. And all of you go through your whole entire life so poisoned by by this toxic patriarchy that you miss out on some of the most enriching, fulfilling, beautiful experiences. Beautiful, my friends, okay? Beautiful, okay? And that is because you have been trained to center yourself rather than center the actual beauty of getting to know someone as a person. So what do? We start with our listening ears, we get our listening ears open, and when a woman from the global majority is speaking, and I will shut up in a minute, Hawks, okay? When she is speaking, you have your fingers under your bum, okay? And not typing, okay? Just listening, okay? As she's talking, okay? I promise you, my friend, you will actually learn something. All right,
Yeah,
folks. Okay.
it doesn't seem like he's very able, because he's still talking in the comment section saying, I'm an ignorant bully. And again, like I said, and like Bard Lucy has said, we've literally talked about the men in our lives and the men that we've come across that have actually been really, supportive of us. And we've had great conversations. I just mentioned my dad as well. It is rare. And unfortunately, Simon, you are the prompt. You are the finished man I'm talking about. You're saying that we're being bigoted by talking exactly about what we're discussing. You said, maybe learn how to speak. And people in the comment section are saying, well, maybe learn how to listen. And now you're crashing out and saying, okay, bye, bigots. Like, this is so dramatic. You don't have to announce your departure, Simon. Like, he literally is like, woe is me. This conversation is so difficult. I'm not one of these men who actually can understand the conversation. So no, I must leave because this area is hurting my feelings. You are having your little feelings hurt, Simon. How is it that you could come to a women's space and having this discussion, right? The world is a very freaking dangerous place for women. A very dangerous place for women. And you're here upset over a conversation. That should be embarrassing for you, truly. And this is what I always say, right? You see those men who are like, women harm men all the time. There's so much like DV from women and women are keeping us. I'm just like, you should be embarrassed, man. You should be hella embarrassed that you are literally going against the minority, the women, the gender, who are literally not a threat to you. Yes, there are some cases that exist, but generally throughout history and through present day, you don't have to worry about stepping out your front door and a woman just coming up and putting a handbag over your head, like for no reason. It's not going to happen unless you've done something to her first. That, as a woman's behavior, is a last resort. You should be very, very, very embarrassed if you think that a woman is your biggest threat and then you're affected by women's words. Again, big up to the men in the comment section that are actually understanding the conversation. Union scum, which is interesting. This is what he's called himself, right? He's called himself union scum, and he's somebody here who's trying to judge women. LOL, the majority of women are toxic and cutthroat, and men are figuring this out. This live is proof. Yeah, we're cutthroat, absolutely. We are down to the point. We talk to you directly. We don't use passive aggressiveness, which is what you people do because you can't communicate directly. We talk directly to you about things. So again, if you don't want to be around women because we're just so frightening to your little egos, women are so scary on the internet with their voices and their opinions. And again, their ability to string sentences together. Oh, so scary. Union scum. In this space, we're talking directly to you. But you, again, are one of those insecure men that jumps out and can't grasp the conversation. You've got Toxic Phantom here, who is a man who understands the conversation. We've got Pedro Domingo, who is also a man here who understands the conversation. I don't know if Zach has come back. Zach is here. Romain is also here. Romain does a lot of work actually to do with male ego. By the way, you guys should follow Romain Rowe. I think if you click up here on the viewers thing, you should see his name there. He's somebody definitely to follow. He unpacks a lot of toxic masculinity. And again, I don't really like the term toxic masculinity. It's just kind of unhealed masculine energy. And he talks about his observations of the world. He also talks about his interactions with women as well, whether they're upholding the patriarchy. So he's an interesting person to follow because he's also on his own learning journey, right? So he's asking questions. He's like, okay, I have a question about something. How do I unpack this? What do I learn from this? And he's willing to be educated by other women. So he's somebody, I can't even remember how I first started coming across him. I think actually his stuff just started appearing on my feed. So I start talking to him and sometimes we talk, which is really cool. So you said, Fox, have I been in documentaries? I feel like I recognize me from a background now. Not in a documentary, but it has been, as I said, it went viral. So again, as I said, guys, this background image that I've got is for when I was walking a white man in public in 2019. I generally love humiliating men, and you guys will know this on this platform anyway. And I also do it in real life. And ever since I've actually moved from the UK, I don't do it so much anymore. But this particular incident went viral. It went all the way around the world. It actually had to be fact checked and debunked in, I can't remember, maybe it's a Nigerian site or a Ghanaian site, because they were arguing whether I was Nigerian or Ghanaian, because they absolutely loved it. They loved it. It was a beautiful, powerful black woman who had a white man on his knees. They also started to make up all this stuff that because I'm talking to a police officer, they were like, oh, she's getting arrested and she's trying to flee the country, like all of this stuff. I was just at Waterloo Station waiting for a friend. So all of these stories just got pulled out of proportion, and it was really, really funny sort of 2 years of my life, because it was constant. I was being sent the meme elsewhere saying something like memes saying, oh, this is what happens when you don't have control of your bank account. Like, this is your bank here and you're trying to do some other stuff. And then people were saying reverse racism. That was the first time I ever saw the phrase reverse racism, actually, which was hilarious. So yeah, it was a very, very funny time in life. And because somebody on the live came up yesterday, and whenever day it was, and said, oh, about that time that I did the public walk, this public humiliation, I was like, yeah, this is adding to the topic of men being very insecure until they actually submit themselves to a woman and understand that a woman is divine, that a woman knows so many things and her knowledge is powerful. And this is important, is that when an unhealed man is with a healed woman, he will always see her as a problem because he's not fixed himself. He will always say, she's a nag and she's a problem and I just can't be me, because we always see the potential in a man more than he sees it in himself. All of the time. We can see everywhere that you go wrong. We can see exactly what you're good at, what your skills are, where you should be going in life. But a lot of the time you don't see it, and you end up being really lazy, or you end up just not really liking yourself because you don't have the confidence level to get to where you need to go to. So the easiest thing again for you to do is to say to the woman, you're the problem. Lucy.
So I'm actually just thinking about the visual of this. So one thing I would say is when you see the public work of art that scene probably was, okay, when you're observing this, what you're observing is the very interesting flip of the power dynamics the way it is. But that person has consented, probably asked, and is having the time of his life, okay, being in that position, okay. And the reason why that image jars so much union scum, and well, are you listening? Are you listening to what we're talking about, love? Okay. All right. Okay. So because here's the thing, is that many men do not want to be in charge. Many men are forced into this artificial and are absolutely miserable in that role. Okay, and actually, what they need is to be able to let go. Okay, to let go of those expectations, to be able to let go of all of that toxic bullshit, and actually experiment with being their true and authentic self. And that's what people like Fox, do for their livelihood and for their living. Okay. And what she enables that to do is for people to actually find their true and authentic self by letting go of all those toxic expectations that are on them. Okay. It is not a sign that there is any kind of like hatred of that person. And in fact, what I would say is when I am in that position and and it's making sure that that person, okay, is able to be their true and most authentic self. Okay. And sometimes that person's true and most authentic self is actually flipping societal expectations that have been placed upon them. So union scum, you can come in with all the judginess. If I don't know whether you're still here, because it looks like you've run away, you wee coward. Okay. But if, you know, this sort of like nasty judgment that comes on is because people are jarred and challenged by that very visual flipping of societal expectations. Okay. So that's work, folks, that you have to do inside. That is work that needs to be done inside. Because what we see here is a lot of men are carrying the weight of this toxic expectation, this poisoned masculinity, when actually there are all kinds of expressions of masculinity that are completely valid. Okay, including the sort of masculinity that sees itself as a helper or a support, or a chew toy, depending on what you're looking at, okay, to a strong woman. So have a wee think about that if you're in there. I think probably you need scum is just like run off.
I know he's here in the comment section, but I really like what you said there about living authentically, and I think that is the most beautiful way to be, because that actually does show that you are willing to balance your own internal energies with the external energies and expectations of life. Living authentically, and as I do, because there's a lot of shame around being a dominatrix and doing this kind of role, is that when I started to actually be honest with myself, that is what I was doing, and then I was being honest with friends and family, I felt so much joy and so much happiness that I could share my experiences about this was literally how I learned about men. This is how I learned about men, because you don't really learn about men until you're older, right? Until you've got a little bit of time and you start dating them and you start seeing them, but you see them on an individual case-by-case basis. I've seen thousands of men right away. So I got the database. I've been doing data collection on these guys. And so as well as them being submissive to me, I've also been dating them. So I've got two different types of, ways to see them and just how they deal with things and how they struggle with things. And I also have amazing phone conversations as well with my clients. I've mentioned this before, like the longest phone conversation I've ever had on the phone with a man was a client of mine, and we were talking for 5 hours. 5 hours. About everything in life, and it was absolutely amazing, really and truly. And he called me many, many times. And actually, he had a cuckold fetish. I think you guys know the word cuckold now. So he was in a relationship with another woman, and he didn't feel like he was good enough for his wife or partner at the time. And so he actually would feel more connected to a dominatrix, because again, the dominatrix is more dominating, and he would love the humiliation in that. He just didn't think he was good enough for women. But again, he would intellectually stimulate me, because, as I say, these conversations were really great. And that's what I mean. Like, actually having deep, meaningful conversations with men seems to be very few and far between, because especially if you've got people like Union Scum who can only say in the comment section, Fox is a self-absorbed child, then, that is the kind of standard of men we're talking about. Like I say, the men that come by, they make it very clear that they're the prompt or they're not the prompt. Union Scum is the prompt. He is the prompt, because right down, I think otherwhere, he says, I love how you speak for a gender you are not and have no clue. We all have a very big clue. Women are the biggest observers on this planet. We don't function out of ego like men. Men are all very much thinking about themselves. They are the self-centered ones. And as we've seen with the men who've come up on the panel and in the chat, they're constantly projecting. And this is why it's important as women, we assert ourselves, our boundaries. We have a higher standard for ourselves. The funny thing is, I have a picture in my room back in the UK that, so I've mentioned my twin before, my twin flame. Let me say my fools, that is my twin flame, not my twin flame. Some of you guys know what that is and some people don't know what that is. Let me explain it real quickly. I was spiritually awakened 2 years ago. I didn't know anything about the spiritual life beforehand. I had no religious teachings, nothing. I was a full-on hardcore atheist. 2 years ago, I started to have all of these spiritual experiences where I could see things in front of me, shadows. I could feel energies more. My dreams were so vivid. I was astral projecting to other different realms. I was introduced to my spirit guides. I could see my past lives. I know I've been many different things in the past life. So this was literally a door that was open to me. And it was activated by the fact that I found out that my energy was shared with somebody else. So we've talked a little bit about masculine and feminine energy. And when you're a twin flame, your energy also lives in somebody else. And I think actually that everybody's a twin flame from what I think and what I feel, but it depends on which incarnation of life that you're in, whether that journey is activated. Because this year we're seeing a lot more conversation about divine unions. The last time this kind of happened was in the 70s when you had all the hippies and they were all kind of like free love, peace and love and all that. And it's definitely coming round again that there's so much negativity in this life right now that we need to have more love. And when you have a divine union, which has actually been orchestrated by the universe, it is the most purest thing. And yes, that's right. Thank you. This is Beth. Twin flames can be with your pets. It can be with anything living. It could be with nature as well. Anything in nature it can be. It doesn't necessarily have to be human. And like I say, you can also be activated on the twin flame journey and your partner could not be alive. Some women I've met who've actually met their twins and sadly one has passed away. So dealing with that grief is very, very difficult because then you start to think that that person is your forever person. But what it does is it actually activates your spiritual side, and especially for women, if you've got more feminine energy, of course men of course have the feminine energy too, so whoever's got the most feminine energy or the more balance of feminine energy, that's when your intuition awakens and all of the inherent knowledge from the universe starts getting filtered out through you. This is why women know more than men do. Women are able to have these kind of conversations, whereas you've got other men coming in the chat going, "You hate men!" Like they're not able and not capable to actually understand the depth of the things that we're talking about. Tracy says, "Good luck with that cupcake." What does that even mean? I don't understand what that means. Julia, good to see you. We are more open, she says. Ghosty says, yes, that's true. Yes, so these kind of conversations, 50% of the people will understand what we're talking about, and the other 50% might not know what we're talking about. So when I was activated as a twin flame, all of this stuff happened for me, but for my twin, it didn't happen. He was there to activate me and accelerate me onto the spiritual journey. He was kind of accepting some of the things. He didn't dismiss it. He was like, okay, let me read a bit more about it. But this is why women are detaching themselves from men, because men are literally in the space right now to elevate women, for us to become more independent, for us to know ourselves first and foremost, not through the eyes of men, but through the eyes of ourselves. That is the most important part of this journey, really and truly. So I'm very grateful to my twin flame for being in my journey. We haven't spoken for a good few years now. I don't know what he's up to. I don't know anything of what he's doing. I know for a fact though that he did have many dark nights of the soul because he was starting to crash out while we were having conversations. And the interesting thing is he's a white English guy, so he's like a lot of my topics of conversation of course are about English men. Yeah, and again it's because of his activation, and he knows this all to be true, but he's literally activated me to talk about my experiences with Englishmen. So it is very ironic and it's been very funny, but like I've said before, it's taken me a long time to actually discuss these kind of things. Yes, I do meditate, Julia. When I first was activated, I had to meditate every day because the activation was so powerful. It was truly sending me. I had to start going to Reiki, which I never believed before. I start wearing my black obsidian crystal around my neck, stone around my neck, because there was so much negative energy, which I didn't believe before. There's so many things I did not believe before. But when you have a spiritual awakening, and I had a Kundalini awakening, if you guys know what that is, which is basically, again, where the masculine energy It's like a snake that moves up throughout your body. So the masculine and feminine intertwines, much like the helix, not the helix, the snake symbols that you see that intertwine like that is all within you. And so again, when you have the spiritual activation, you start being grounded into the earth, you understand Mother Nature, and then you're also connected to the divine realm. So all of this activated in me. And when that happens to you, you have a Kundalini awakening, which means you are shaking uncontrollably for quite some time. When I would fall asleep, I would be shaking like this because there was so much energy pouring through me. The funny thing is I used to have a twitch before in my leg for years and I thought it was normal, but it was the slow activation until it became like a woof, and I haven't been the same since. Lucy, you got some things that you wanted to add?
Yeah, so it's always very fascinating to hear other people's. Sorry, I'm going to have to plug my phone in or it will die again, as I wasn't expecting to be in such an interesting live. So so it's always really interesting to hear about other people's spirituality. It's not quite how I'm a traditional spiritual practitioner in my own traditions. So I'm seeing sort of almost like a parallel language, but obviously it's almost like coded in a slightly different way. So I wouldn't say I was an expert on twin flames or this sort of thing, but what I do know is I've met so many people who are, they're basically coming into these sort of spiritual awakenings. They are going through, sort of spirit-led initiations. Some people are going back to their ancestral practices, like they suddenly start, getting, like their ancestors start calling on them, okay, and they start getting into that. I find that it is something of an irony, actually, that your twin flame guy was white and English. I'm going like, that is the sort of cosmic ironies that, it smells like a setup. Yeah. It smells like a setup. But what I find really interesting about these things is that because women are kind of on fire right now, and I know that from the Chinese side, we've now shifted into period 9 from the Chinese perspective, and that for the Chinese side of things is the era of the mother. It's the era of women, and generally. So the previous era was all about younger men. Now it's in the era of women, and you can see it shifting everywhere. You're seeing this idea. I also sort of have to point out that although we're talking in very binary terms, that is because most people on the planet are in these sort of like binary systems. However, we're also able to shift along those spectrums. Sometimes it involves moving along polarities, moving along in these sort of like complementary ways. Even though we're talking about hard binaries, it doesn't mean to say that the whole world that we live in is a binary world. Most men are trained to think of themselves as one thing and women as another thing, okay? And never the twain shall meet. So many men act as though they hate us. Do they really hate us? Do they just really hate us?
They hate themselves, and that's the problem. A lot of the time, they hate themselves.
So so sort of thinking about all of these things together, it's like, especially when you look at younger women, they are getting they're streaks ahead in terms of their emotional development, streaks ahead in terms of their spiritual development. They're literally leaving the lads in the dust, and the lads don't know what to do with themselves. So the critical thing here is really for men to realise that these systems that have served them in the past are no longer serving them. It's not working anymore. So when something isn't working, you basically have a choice. You can keep doing what you've been doing and realise very quickly that it's not going to work. You can mire yourself in resentment because things are not working the way they are quote unquote supposed to. Or you can see it as an opportunity to grow. and move. And therein, so it's the ones who are seeing that it's not working, challenging themselves, stop projecting and start healing. They're the ones that are going to be, getting married, having kids, having community, having a life, enjoying themselves. They're going to be all right, okay, socially. The only use patriarchal society has for spare, lonely, embittered, violent men is basically fodder for their disgusting armies. Okay? So when you want a lot of soldiers to go on off and do horrible things, it's in the boss's interest to keep you angry, bitter, alone, isolated, okay? Wounded, not healing, okay? Because that serves a purpose. That serves a purpose.
I think that's a really excellent point there. Really excellent point about how these systems really, like we've mentioned earlier, are not for the benefit of men. And once they continue to uphold these toxic behaviors, they only benefit, again, the 1%. And that thing about creating now a generation of angry men is to basically go back into the military, because we've had this, of course, bubbling conversation about national service being put mandatory right back in the UK, and people said, no, we're not going to do that. But the billionaires are literally dragging young men and fighting age men. They love that term, the right wing, right? Fighting age men. You're a fighting age man. You're a fighting age man. You literally have been conscripted before to fight. You will get conscripted again, and you see what the government will be able to do to you this time around. Like, really, you are going to be fighting for the billionaires. You did it before in World War One. You did it as volunteers, and then you end up being conscripted in World War II. Millions of you were unalived during this time, and you were told now throughout history that this is an honourable thing to do. If you're going down this red pill route, and you're going down this avenue to think that we are the problem, that women are the problem, we're the ones who are the dangerous ones, we're the ones that are causing so much threat to your lives, you're lost. You're completely lost, and it will be the end of yourself. It will be the end of yourself. Okay, we've got Dundun on the panel, please. Dundun, what would you like to add today?
How are you? I'm a man.
I'm good, thank you.
And I think that right now, this is the best time in history ever to be a man, because we don't have to take care of anybody anymore. We can be independent. We can do what we want to do. And I think that that's good.
How do you think that men were taking care of women before and children? How do you think men were doing that?
Well, man, they had all these stupid families and stuff like that. And so, like, today, men aren't having families.
You know that you've always had a choice whether you were going to put your dick in a woman or not. You know, that was always a choice that you had. Like, no one was making you do that, by the way. You were not understanding the consequences that when you do that, you do produce a child. No one was forcing you to get married. You've always been independent, because guess what? You still had your career. You still had your friends. You still could go and travel. You could still have boys' holidays. So what are you talking about, Dun? Literally, what are you talking about? You could still do everything that you wanted to do in a relationship.
Okay.
The only people that actually couldn't do it was the woman, because again, she would get left with the child. She would then have to sacrifice her career. She would have to sacrifice. So I don't know where you think you were sacrificing or actually like doing stuff for families. I don't get it.
But weren't you just okay? So the thing is, okay, so I agree. Women weren't held to do those kind of things, and now they can. Now they have the freedom to do what they want to do. And I kind of respect that, because it takes one person to hold down the other. So now that they can go off and do what they want to do, men, and maybe men in the past were stupid. I think men in the past were stupid. I think, why would you waste your time, dating or getting married to somebody? Marriage is a waste of time. And then you get these kids, and the kids are bad. And I don't believe in the family structure. And now we're seeing that it doesn't work. And I respect that. And I hope the next thing we can get to is like sexual segregation. because I think that it's just
Dun. You're kind of behind with this conversation because we've already been sexually segregating ourselves for quite some years.
good.
Like we
I
started
respect
this
that. I
movement
support
a
that.
long time ago, like a long
Yeah,
time
separatist
ago.
feminist.
Because we did.
I'm a
Because we didn't-
separatist feminist.
Because Dun, we were not getting the emotional stability from men. We
Yeah.
were not finding those needs met. And then again, this is now the awakening of the feminine energy, of the feminine, where we have started to center ourselves, where we are being more, like I've said on the screen here, right? We're more mentally support. We know which places we can go for mental stability or mental health support. We're physically stronger.
You
We're
believe
going
in
into
that
the
stuff?
gym. We're socially better. We actually have great relationships with female friends because we actually talk about things financially. We are the first generation of women to actually have great financial independence. We don't need permission from our significant other or our husband or our father to have a bank account. We are emotionally more stable as well because again we have the ability to talk about our feelings where men really struggle with that. Intellectually having these conversations, I've literally been having this platform for God knows about 2 years, and generally the panel ends up being mostly women, and we actually are able to have a conversation far more improved than a men's panel. I've had a men's panel before, which was an absolute disaster. I've had a women's panel before, which was actually really great. Occupationally as well, women are literally excelling in so many different industries now because they have the ability to do so. The patriarchy is crumbling, so we have so many more doctors, nurses, lawyers, all of these really high-end jobs now because women have a better opportunity there. Environmentally, women are more obviously connected to nature. They understand animals, they understand plants and trees and all the things that actually we need to have in this world. They're not harming them. And spiritually, of course, we've talked a lot about spirituality here because we are the ones who are awakening the most. So, yes, Dun.
I have
Wait, so then you're agreeing with everything I said.
well, hang on.
You're trying to just. Oh, go ahead, lady at the bottom.
Okay. So you're describing yourself as a kind of separatist. You want to separate off. You don't want relationships with women. You're happy that women are getting together. Can I ask what that looks like socially for you? How does your community actually look? Do you spend time in your community? How does that work for you?
Well, the thing is this: our society, unfortunately, hasn't 100% moved to that. There's still a lot of men out there that are weak men and that desperately want a woman and family and all that stupid stuff. And they're not as, like, I would agree with the host, they're not as forward as women are with focusing on their own stuff. They're always worried about what some woman is doing. So how it looks to me.
So like, how do you, like, if you don't like spend time with women, okay, do you spend time with the lads? Do you like, because human beings are social creatures, okay?
Some are, some aren't.
So well, as a species, so when a woman decenters a man, okay, or decenters men, she doesn't decenter other people. She generally has more community connections. If you look at Fox has a wide friend group. She's into a lot of things. There's an Irish author that I follow here, and she has a great life, loads of friends. She volunteers in her community. She has great social connections and all of that. So how are your social connections? Are they okay?
Yeah.
Or
I'm fine with I got friends. I'm fine with my friends. We occasionally, I go to the gym. I got a personal trainer that I'm friends with. We do a bunch of stuff, play video games, and all type of stuff. So is that what you're asking?
Well, yeah. So if you were like having a really, really bad time, like you were having like a terrible time emotionally and stuff like that, who would you go to?
Yeah, men don't have only weak men. I don't believe in that mental health stuff. I think that's for women.
What?
We don't have bad times.
Stop it now. Stop it now. Stop it now. How can you not believe in mental health? You literally have a brain in your head.
I think it's fake.
Right? What do you mean it's
fake? I think
fake?
it's fake. It's pseudoscience. It's like it's something to push pharmaceutical products on people.
Do you know, Okay, so you know you can heal yourself through anything. No, obviously you don't know because
But I think-
because the funny thing is, Dun, what you just said was actually
Psychology is white supremacy.
One minute. The two things that you mentioned were very antisocial things. You said going to the gym, which is basically you're focusing on the external of your body. Yes, you do have some communication there. And then the next thing you said was video games. So you're not having it again like real connections. You're talking to people online, which is mainly a lot of trash talk. You're not. But you're not
What are you
saying,
doing right
do you know
now?
what? I had a really bad time at work
What are you
today.
doing right now?
I'm having a great communication with people here. Don't project onto me,
Online.
Dun. Don't project onto me, Dun. Don't project onto
Are
me.
you not online
you have
talking?
to- I'm having a great in-depth conversation. I'm not talking about having a headshot with somebody else from like Call of Duty or whatever. We're literally
But
talking
that's what
about,
you're doing.
like,
But no,
really
you
in-depth
come
stuff here.
online to argue with people. That's the way people are socializing now. You come online, hold on a second, you come online to talk to other people. This is the way things are done.
Yeah,
And
we're
mental health
talking.
mental
You
health is
said-
white. I don't believe in white supremacy. Mental health is white supremacy.
Right, Dun. Let me just-
Psychology, Sigmund Freud, yeah, that's white supremacy. I don't believe in that stuff.
I agree about Sigmund Freud, but let me just take you back to this, okay?
B.F. Skinner, he's a white supremacist.
All right, okay. Let's just come back to what you've described as. I asked you if you were having a really terrible time, okay? Go to confide in that person. I know
I've never had a terrible time.
Right, well, either you've been very lucky or you've been living in denial. I know I can pick up the phone and call Fox, okay? And I can go, like, we're not in the same country right now because Fox had the good sense to leave this island, okay?
Okay.
But I know that I can pick up the phone, I can say, look, Fox, I've had a really terrible time, okay? And do you know what she'll probably do? She'll probably book a flight, okay? And come out and take me out, okay? And we can talk about things. Because that's how women show up for other women, okay?
Yeah, that's women though.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. It's not women. It's human. It's human to do that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Humans and women are different. So what I'm saying is men,
So you're saying
we
that
don't
women
have
aren't
bad
humans?
times.
Like somebody in the comment section has already called
They-
me an
they're
incel.
super-
Are you
they're
saying that
super-
women aren't human? Like what are men then?
they're superhumans.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So and first off, I don't like people that are against the LGBTQ. I'll have you know, incel got added to the list. Okay, so I don't want you to be. We are now a protected class. Okay.
What?
So if you guys come at incels, yes, we join incels. We join the LGBTQ, and we're protected
See,
class.
this is the problem with the
So-
male ego. The male ego is literally on another planet, man. Like this is the nonsense things sometimes that men say are really just beyond me. Like truly beyond me.
I think you like men.
And then what you're telling me is you have no
Yeah.
close friendship, okay?
Yes.
That you have no one that you can go to if things are really bad. That you think opening up to people is somehow a sign of weakness rather than vulnerability coming from a place of empowerment or strength. These are not feminine virtues.
But none
man.
of those things are real. There's no such thing as opening up to somebody. It's fake.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I like
I'm
your
sorry.
hat, by the way. I like that hat.
Do you know what's
It's
interesting,
kind of-
right? Do you know what's
Reminds me of
interesting?
Indiana
Lucy?
Jones.
Do you know what's interesting? Like, even if this guy is trolling, the kind of mindset that you need to have in your mind to be able to say this kind of stuff is something else. Like, that is also mental health issues, by the way, because, like, people are able to have general conversations and grasp the conversation and not say wild stuff like that. Like, being a troll equates to being a loser. Like, really, it does. It equates to the fact that you don't really have a great grasp of reality. And if you think that that's a way to be entertaining or to be funny or to get attention, then that really tells you about where you are in life. Like I said, you said you were only interactive in the gym and online through gaming, not the fact that you're actually able to have a decent
And on
conversation with
TikTok.
all of us here. No, don't keep projecting, because this is a real conversation. These lives are always very in depth every single week. And
Are
yet
they?
yes, you don't know me. You don't know me.
Really?
Yeah, you don't know me. You don't know me at all. don't know
So
me.
these lives are actually solving problems, or is it just people on the internet talking to each other?
Do you want to?
I think it's just people on the internet talking to each other.
Everybody else here can answer the question. I won't answer the question. Do you find these TikTok lives helpful? Anybody in the chat, and Lucy yourself, you can let us know in the chat. Do you find these TikTok lives helpful?
I think I have met the most amazing bunch of women through these lives. Actually, some cracking men as well. Okay, it's not just that, but people like Nikki, like the anti-racist mom, she's gonna come up. Okay, she's gonna come up to Scotland and see me. Okay, like real.
Oh, wow.
connections are actually formed through these discussions because it's human beings actually engaging and talking with one another like they are humans, and not basically a mirror of your own projections, done. And this is the tragic thing about incels, okay, just in general, is in some ways my heart really goes out to you because I can see what this society has done to you. It has isolated you, embittered you, indoctrinated you into some weird incel cult, okay? I've watched several men in my life, okay, go down the incel route, and it was horrible to watch, okay? And you don't realize actually the world of beauty that is open to you if you choose hope and not hate, okay?
Hope for what? I don't hate anybody.
Well, you kind of hate yourself, okay? Because that's what
How do I hate myself?
Yeah.
You're telling me that you think that vulnerability is weakness. That
It's not real.
Context is a video game.
I'm not.
You're isolating yourself in these like echo chambers of other incels. Okay, you call us foils.
Is this an incel echo chamber? I'm talking to somebody right now, and neither one of y'all are incels.
You're damn right, darling. Okay, I'm
Okay.
8 years old and I'm getting more than an incel. I'll tell you that.
Well,
okay?
that's good. I'm happy for you. But the thing is that the reason why I say that is I know that y'all from the UK, but a lot of the women opening up to other women, it's not even real. I just saw some in England where the girl ran over another girl with a BBL.
Yeah.
And the girl smacked Ice Spice at the McDonald's. Y'all women don't even really like each other. You only like each other when men are around. Outside of that, y'all turn into a reality show.
So that's two.
Just like-
that's two whole examples, guys, that he brought up. Two.
Oh, there's plenty of
whole
examples.
Two whole examples. Historically, again, like women are just so dangerous and we're so mean to each other.
I never said that.
Yes, we have conflict because we are human as well. Like we do have conflict. But
I disagree.
Thing is, we aren't dragging the whole world into our shit like you lot do. We don't drag the whole world. We don't drag in whole countries and communities into our crap because we've had a bad day.
Let me ask you.
Yeah, you do.
Listen. Okay, so
You the reason that we in the war with Iran.
What?
Yeah, you the reason. The white women in England is the reason why the British colonized everywhere because they wanted to get away from the white women. So the white men in Britain, they didn't like the white women, and they're like, you know what? We need to leave Britain and go colonize the world because the white women were so annoying. So they are the reason. That's why men go to war so they can get away from women.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're
look,
done. I think we're done with that conversation now. I dropped him. Like it was kind of entertaining for a little bit, but I had to drop that guy because that's just getting so ridiculous now. Like everything he was saying, pretty much. I mean, 95% of it was bloody ridiculous. Really ridiculous, and then it comes to a point where you just have to stop the conversation because it is just there's trolling and there's just it's just a waste of energy. Well, we do have Maestro back on the panel. So Maestro at the beginning of the conversation literally said that divine feminines don't exist in myself. Divine feminine doesn't exist in myself because this is a topic of conversation. I asked him to tell me where these divine masculines are. He actually disappeared. So I'm hoping that he's come back now to tell me where these divine masculines are. Maestro, did you go off to find some?
Unfortunately, I purchased a yellow Ferrari on Friday. I just had it delivered today. So I had to go and pick up So that was my reason for being absent from your discussion.
No one's
I think it's
interested.
very
I asked you, have you gone and found a divine masculine? Yes or no? Who are the divine masculines that you know?
my reason for being having to leave your engagement and your talking points from an abstract manner, right? So that's the reason. Having said that, I'm a bit confused as to why you dropped the gentleman who was
Can you answer
speaking.
the direct question, yes or no? The divine masculines in your life, do you know any, please?
In what context?
You are the one who came here talking about divine feminine. So in your knowledge of what a divine feminine is, you should know what a divine masculine is. Like, honestly, I hate having to talk so slow to these people. The opposite of feminine is what? Masculine. So tell me about the divine masculines that you know, please.
I think I'm quite capable, and I rest assured that my circle, including my family heritage, is capable of being able to withstand the transition in terms of where we're moving as a society, taking into consideration that what we have is a bunch of potential, XYZ entities who don't demonstrate value add from a traditional perspective as to what we used to have.
Maestro. Let's
Yes,
again
you have-
make it even more simpler.
you have-
What does divine masculinity look like to you, Maestro?
Provider, protector, intelligence from an emotional perspective, to be able to manage the affairs of degenerates in society who don't know how to orchestrate self.
Okay, so you said protector, okay? So the idea that you are protecting women, who are you protecting women from?
Last time I checked, there are a lot of weirdos out there in the outdoors, and they're having femicide issues. They're having all sorts of problems. And I think as a man, by default, we have a heightened ability to sense danger. So if you don't realize, every time you go out with a man, he's calculating in public the risk factor just simply by being outside with you. And he's mitigating said risk in terms of his engagement, as well as managing your emotional state to be able to ensure that no harm comes your way. This is what men do instinctively.
Okay, so just 1 minute. We're just going to go back a little bit, because the whole topic of what you're discussing is about divine masculinity, not masculinity in terms of the patriarchy, what you think it is, which is literally what you've just described. This provider, protector type person. That's not divine. What divine means, and let me tell you what it actually means. A wounded divine masculine is emotionally unavailable. He's controlling. He's insecure. He judges others. He's aggressive. He's overly competitive. He's a bully. He's abusive in relationships, and he's manipulative. A divine masculine is somebody who's secure in who they are. They're honest. They're humble. They're accountable. They can make decisions. They're confident. They respect boundaries internally and externally. They take risks. And they don't have a lot of fears because of their security. So that's actually what a divine masculine means, Maestro. So I think you've kind of misunderstood. And when you came up here talking about divine femininity, I already knew that you didn't know what a divine feminine actually was. But I wanted you to talk about divine masculine. So actually, you're not really on the level of understanding in the topic that you came to talk about. You could have talked about men generally, and you could have talked about women generally on a physical plane. You could have said men are this and women are this. You could have said something about me. Because thank you, Tashi. Because what you came up here is tried to say that I wasn't a divine feminine, but I never claimed to be a divine feminine. You were trying to attack me spiritually, but I combated you spiritually and in the physical as well, Maestro. So then what?
What do you mean attack? Like, who's fighting?
You
What are
came
you
here to
talking
fight with
about?
me. You came here to fight with me and say that I was not a divine feminine.
Hold on.
If I may,
Oh,
if I may, Michael, okay, because when we had the conversation before, okay, I gave you the example of the website where there was 64 million hits in a month, okay, and when I asked you whether that was a male problem, okay, you said you immediately went to colonization, when I also pointed out the violence rates against women in South Africa, and you correctly went to colonization as the reason for that, okay? But what you seem to be doing, and this is just my observation from listening to the way you and Fox have been interacting, is you're taking this problem, which we know is white patriarchy colonizing people, okay? We know that that's the real problem, okay? It's basically white men colonizing places where they shouldn't be colonizing. And instead of recognizing or acknowledging that that's the real problem, white patriarchy, what you're doing is actually somehow like projecting and saying that that is somehow women's problem, and specifically your sister's problem. Okay, and that is, and that to me is kind of wild that you would have this insight about colonization, okay, and yet still making the remedy for that some kind of like quasi spiritual issue for Fox, and that's kind of wild, okay, because you know what the answer to that is, okay, you know that the problem is white 1%er guys at the top. All right, that's where the real problem is. Okay, so by coming in with this, you're not sitting in your divine feminine stuff, like to Fox, okay, which I find unbelievably rich, okay, for someone to come in and say that to Fox, but that's neither here. You know what the problem is. We all know what the problem is, okay? Like, nobody's a fool here, okay? But by criticizing Fox and saying you're not sitting in your divine feminine, and that's the reason why you're having all these problems with men, when we know that men are rancid, we know that white men are rancid, and they make websites, and that shore up this horrible system of violence, and we know that that's the real problem. Why would you come into this discussion making this whole system Fox's fault for not sitting in her divine feminine? It's just completely wild, sir. It's wild, okay? That you, I just don't understand why you would do that, okay? I just don't get it.
Because he's projecting, and he's called us both laggards in the comments section as well. So of course it is somebody who is slow and falls behind. And I already told him, like, it's so funny actually, both of the things that we're saying to him, Lucy, he's projecting back to us what we're actually saying. Like, he's flipping it and reversing it because he doesn't understand the conversation. So I already called him slow. I already told him that I had to speak more slowly for him to understand. And generally I have to do that anyway for men. And he's saying that we're the laggards. Like, Lucy is a very highly educated woman. You should see her content. She is called the Bard Lucy. She is a poet. She is a scholar. Myself, I have varying degrees in psychology and in multimedia computing. I do many things. I've lived many different lives. And Maestro is coming here, and we're kind of skeptical about this Ferrari that has just turned up. Because again, if you're a secure person, right? If you're a secure person, why would you feel like you needed to tell everybody what you disappeared for? Because we weren't, Maestro, we weren't interested. Nobody was interested in the reason why you had to drop on the panel. And I've had this before, right, with men, is they'll duck from a conversation and they'll be like, oh, sorry, I was just like talking to my friend about what we're doing this weekend and what costumes you wear. This has nothing to do with me. What's that literally got to do with me? Just because you found the conversation difficult. You found it difficult, and so then you have to tell us about all this kind of like fake stuff that is going on in your life, or irrelevant stuff, because it actually you found it very difficult to go from this brain to this brain, which is actually involving a brain that knows how to communicate with people.
Thank you very much. I will admit that you're potentially more flexible than I am in terms of emotional disposition of talking points, right? But I stand on my square when I say and emphasize, right? And this was my original talking point. Feminine, good-looking, attractive women don't have the challenges that you're expressing in your talking viewpoints, right?
Sir, you're not understanding the conversation, because
on. Why
I've never
you
said
doing-
I've
Hold
never
on.
said that this was a challenge. This is called observing humanity. I've never had any problems with relationships. I've never had any problems with men generally. I am an observer, and I'm
you not-
talking about your gender and the things that you do. This is why the panel is as it is,
I said
Maestro.
that relevant. Why are you not married in your age of category to be able to enhance the human species? Right? That means that you have challenges within your particular paradigm of understanding of what you're meant to do, to the point where you're making excuses and utilizing.
I've never said, Maestro,
Oh,
Maestro,
God.
stop projecting. I don't need to hold on to anything. I don't need to hold on to nothing, sir. I've talked about some of the relationships that were actually good. And as I said, they get to a certain point, but then they can't meet me at a certain level. I've talked about a great relationship that I have with my father. I've talked about some men, like I said this morning, I had a great conversation with a very high spiritual guy this morning. Maestro, the main thing we always ask on this panel was for men to stop projecting onto us with your own insecurities. You get upset that our standards are so high that you can't meet them. You get upset by it. Like, men are the only ones who get upset at a woman closing her legs, at a woman putting herself first in her career, putting herself first mentally, physically, socially, financially, emotionally, intellectually, occupationally, environmentally, and spiritually. You guys get upset about this, not us. Why would we get upset about this? Why would we be the ones who are upset?
Do you agree that education does not equate into intelligence, right?
It depends
There's a
on where you're
reason-
educated, and self-education is very important. Self-education is mostly important.
Majority of
than
women don't agree with
establishment
you.
is more important.
You're going to speak here for the next 10
Women do not claim you.
minutes. Why do you want to, whilst I'm just speaking my truth for power on your segment for 10 minutes? Does that make logical sense to you?
I'm sorry, I just switched off with what you were saying.
Because why are you hogging the mic when you're the host for 247?
Because my voice is actually more interesting than yours. That's why I have the panel when you don't have one, Maestro. If you want to go and do your TikTok lives, you're more than welcome. Like, everybody can go and see what you have to say. But if people don't want to hear what you have to say, then, that's nothing to do with me.
All Maestro is saying, which was my original talking point, is right? You see, feminine divine energy is in competition, right? And for feminine divine energy to win, they have to be the best version of self.
What the
Unfortunately, hold on.
This man has not read a single word on what divine feminine is. I feel like he probably came across this word in some masculine space, right? He probably came across this word and is like, right, I'm just going to now use this phrase, even though I don't know what it actually means, and I'm going to push this phrase as if I know what it means. Maestro, have you actually read anything at all about the divine feminine?
I'm going based off natural instinct.
Yeah, that's the
and
problem.
I say to you,
that's the problem. That's the Oh my God.
you have.
I think actually I figure out what the thing, because in some
This is why
manosphere circles, okay, they use sorry sir. I'm so sorry, sir. Fox, I think because I'm talking to Fox, okay, so like I'm speaking to Fox. So in some manosphere circles, the phrases divine masculine and divine feminine are like the new white supremacist buzzwords to get women and men into traditional gender roles. So it's kind of like being sort of like co-opted by the kind of YT supremacist far right in sort of these like new agey type circles, okay? And the Professor Williams there is nodding his head, is nodding his head in time. And so what I think Maestro might have picked up on is that kind of like cultural warping of those, of those phrases. I'm not really into that kind of side of spirituality. I'm not really here to like judge anyone's spirituality, but what I do know and what I am aware of is that in some new agey or manosphere, like, the guys with podcast microphone circles, they're always on about, you got to sit in your divine feminine and cook and clean and nurture and clean up after us and stuff like that. And I'm in my divine masculine because I go to the gym and play video games and have a podcast, and that's what I bring to the table because I'm a high value man. And all of that is rooted actually in white patriarchy. And so, Maestro, I understand that you are from the global majority, and I say this with absolute love and respect because I am a white person and I acknowledge the harm that we have done, okay, as a collective to you and your collective. But in this kind of sphere, when this sort of language is being thrown around, and when you are saying, no, you just need to be pretty and sit in your divine feminine, then you won't have all this problem from the men's, okay? That is the same kind of fascist, white supremacist lies that are being spread by these like white podcast bros that have kind of infected the entire male gender with this bullshit. And I'm kind of like picking up when Maestro's hearing this, I'm hearing these white podcast bros kind of speak through Maestro, and it's a bit disconcerting because he's kind of repeating what these white guys are saying, and it really kind of, it is a bit disconcerting, Maestro. I'm so sorry to bring it up because I think that you did hit on a really, really good point earlier when you were here, when you were talking about South African culture and how the violence against women is as a result of colonization. And you were perfectly correct on that point. But then you turn around and then you blame women for this fact that cannot be denied, that it is basically white patriarchy. And
I just want to correct something, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, or maybe I heard correctly, I don't know. But masculine and feminine energy does exist in Indian culture and African culture. Is that something? Yeah, we're just going to correct.
It exists. Yeah, I'm not talking about like the genuine stuff, like the genuine sort of culture, native and indigenous stuff, okay? Because you talk about the way that you have co-opted that language.
Okay, yeah. And just want to get some clarification on, so the manipulation of the term is now being used in a modern way, which again is not talking about the divine aspect. It is literally just about the traditional roles of the masculine and feminine, which it just doesn't, what's the point of adding divine to it?
All right, listen, I've worked you guys out. Then I understand.
Yeah, okay, we're going to move to the next person. We've got Archaeodeath on the panel as well. Archaeodeath, how are you today?
I'm all right. Thank you so much for letting me come and talk. And I must admit, I'm way outside my comfort zone speaking in this context. But I just thought I'd sort of reflect as someone with my privileges stacked up as a white male, British, and I deal with watch these issues unfold on social media. And I'm just constantly irked by this idea of the protective man myth, because it hurts only men and everybody else. And just to give you two anecdotes, and I challenge any man to question my experience as a white man. I don't look to other white men for protection. I'm looking out for them as a problem in every public space. And I've been 50 plus years on this planet, and there's never been a time as a boy or as a man where I'm going, oh, look, I need to get another guy to help me out here. Yeah? I mean, I was on the train recently and had an altercation with physical threats to me from 4 teenage youths. There were 8, 9 younger, fitter, tougher looking blokes within. Did they move? Did they help? Did they intervene? Did they try and calm it down? Of course they didn't. I was in a pub only the other night. about 150 men, perhaps 50 women. If something had kicked off, who would I be looking to? I don't want to generalize. I know it's terrible, but I'm not looking to the blokes to help out. This is just nonsense. It's laughable and it's painful to hear grown-ass men on social media trying to play that line. Because I don't know where they live. I don't know where they experience, whatever their age and gender and ethnicity. Where are these protective men? Because I've never seen them. I've tried to help at points in my life. I've tried to but I know it's easy to make it worse by intervening. I've certainly, aware there's a balance. But I just want to put it out there. So you answered your question in the chat, men are finished. In terms of that particular myth, they are screwed. There's no coming back. There's no argument that I've seen that makes sense in that regard. And certainly on personal experience, where is it? I've got all my privileges. I'm a man, I'm white. Well, am I looking to other white men to back me up in anywhere? Never. I'm sorry, I don't know where this comes from, so I thought I'd just give a little rant and then shut up. But
it always comes from the patriarchy, as we know. It's like the idea of the man has been the protector, etc. But yeah, it's always good to have real life examples of the fact that it's not actually true. But my question to you actually, and you obviously have the intellectual capability to answer direct questions, because this is a problem we find on this panel. It's like men can't answer questions. So my question to you is, what do you think about men who are now saying that women are the biggest threats to themselves? What do you think about it? They're trying to say that there's so much harm that women are doing to men. Like, they're not talking about other men. They're talking first and foremost now about women being the biggest threat. What do you think about that?
Well, I won't answer directly, because my first question is what is the threat? A physical threat, a threat to their fragile ego, a threat to what? What is the threat coming from women as a category? It's a fantasy. It's only their fragility, isn't it? I mean, like, why introduce that why would you need to see collectively women as a problem? As a father, as a husband, as a son, women are everywhere in every capacity in our lives. How can they be a threat? And where did this threat suddenly emerge from? So I'm not answering your question because I just don't see it. I can't understand it. I don't even know where that narrative comes from, other than their own fragility and concern about not having any confidence in themselves. I don't know. Yeah. You might as well just say, well, trees are a threat. Look at them out there growing with leaves. They're causing me problems. It's that arbitrary a category for the cause of any problems that men face. That's my feeling.
Maestro, do you want to respond to that point, Maestro?
Very much. My interpretation, based on what I've heard, is that human beings are so bored, they have nothing going on in their personal life, that they want to spin narratives to try to get that hit of dopamine to make it look like what they're saying is so relevant or important. At the end of the day, all Maestro did was say feminine women are able to assimilate to masculine men, and the in-betweens are the ones left out.
No, he never said anything about. He never said. Don't twist his words. He never said anything about masculine or feminine at all. That again is in your mind, sir. You are the one who was coming here talking about divine feminine. You're the one who's talking about energy. He never mentioned anything about femininity and masculinity. Yes, he talks about men and women.
All right. My observation is, right, some of you have a lot more time to be able to twist words and make it look like, okay, we don't know what we're talking about. But all we're saying is feminine women are more attractive to men. And those are the women that we go for. That's all I said from the beginning.
Do you guys hear that? Do you hear that? Maestro is having a completely different conversation with the voices in his head. He's literally not even talking to any of us now. Like, he's hearing things that we haven't even said. He's not even responding to us directly. Like, he is literally here to just come onto a space and be heard. Like I said, a lot of these men seem to be very lonely and they have no social skills and they don't know how to have a back and forth conversation. But Bard Lucy, you've got some things you want to add as well.
So I want to, because Fox raised a really good point about indigenous framings of masculine and feminine. So I just want to clarify that when I was talking about the podcast bros, I'm talking about the twisting of indigenous concepts that have been like filtered through this new age nonsense and then used to force people into rigid gender roles. I am not talking about indigenous concepts of gender, either African indigenous or Turtle Island indigenous. But I do want to bring this point back to how we model masculinity and femininity. And I'll give you an example from my own spiritual traditions. We have a goddess and a god in my spiritual traditions. The goddess is a goddess of war, battle, and sovereignty. She is often seen in the form of a crow. She often is seen covered in blood, okay, shrieking across the fields of battle, like sending fear into warriors, causing them to flee and self-delete. All of this, like really, really horrific imagery associated with this goddess. And her husband is a big, huggable, gorgeous, many lovers. He's like oozing, like kind of like that all-encompassing generosity of, like that kind of thing. He is a warrior. He builds things. Okay. He is a poet. He plays a harp and he's a great cook. And he has this big cauldron from which no one departs hungry. So in my spiritual traditions, we have the divine feminine in inverted commas, although it's not strict binary, okay, as this shrieking phantom of battle, like going and going after warriors and sort of like messing people up on the battlefield and raising pillars so no one can retreat from the battlefield and all the rest of it. And her husband is this god, this divine masculine figure, okay, who basically cooks a lot and is is basically your homebody, okay? He's building earthworks. He's your hearth, your home, the cauldron of plenty. And those two figures, okay, are kind of like dominate a lot of our spiritual discussions and lores. Their names are Anmori and Anandagda, okay? And technically speaking, they are divine feminine and divine masculine that completely flip conventional gender roles as told to us by white patriarchy. Okay, and that is sort of my community's indigenous, religious, spiritual mythology and practice. So how would you answer this?
In your community is not recognized from a regulatory standpoint.
Oh, but we are though. Absolutely. I'm a Goidelic polytheist. I sit on the board of the Scottish Pagan Federation. Okay, we have like ministers and people who are licensed to perform marriages and stuff. So I'm not sure what this. There's not many of us, but we're here. So, but
Hold on. Do you think that perhaps due to the fact that you have a divergent view based on inability to conform to modern day human society in terms of assimilation, this is perhaps why you have your very strong views, right?
Don't say that about somebody else, right? Don't say that Bard Lucy has an inability to conform to society, like that's a problem. Like, don't say that. So basically, you're happy with being a slave, and Bard Lucy is actually more free in her thinking. She's much more open-minded. And the fact of the matter is that when we talk, we're all understanding what we're saying. The only person who is not being understood is you, Maestro. Again, stop projecting.
I implore you to use and reverse your talking point. I am not a slave. I come from royalty. My daddy built land that I live on.
Maestro,
right?
Understand what mental slavery means. Understand what mental slavery means. I don't need to hold on anything. I don't need to hold on anything, Maestro. I don't need to hold on anything.
When you try to violate the principalities that are trying to guide you, in particular, aka BLK women, unfortunately, we're going to have to strike you out, right? Because My daddy built the whole.
Good night. You're gone. You're gone. No threats. No threats. Thank you, Archeo. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously lots of Ferraris and lots of wonderful ancestry there. But the point is, what Bard Luce is talking about here is where we sort of are in conversation more regularly about, you know, as an archaeologist and a historian, I'm dealing with the deep time past, and people look to that for comfort, for wisdom, for story that will tell them who they are. And I have absolutely respect, and I listen to people from a range of religious and spiritual backgrounds that do that, including modern paganisms, heathenries, you know, different people who, you know, druidry and so on. And I see a lot of real positivity there of finding, as Lucy was saying, constructive male or masculine models, roles that are obviously stylized and mythological, but they can be really powerful and supportive and enabling. And they show us that we don't have to be men with big microphones and small appendages sitting in ridiculous set up rooms talking to each other about how women are the problem. We can find other stories, right? And so that's why I think paganism, in a crudest of general umbrella terms, is so powerful. And yet, as Lucy's saying, that kind of spirituality is also being co-opted and manipulated by those same manosphere people who want a really archetypal masculine Viking or masculine Celt who you know, which is basically wrapping the past in modern male fragility to sustain and perpetuate that. And so what I'm trying to get at is that the deep time past, mythology, legend, spirituality, and archaeology and history are absolutely central to this debate. It's not just about what your dad did or what your mum did or what your immediate ancestry. These deep time stories are really powerful, but they're always, people are literally slavering to get their hands on it, to co-opt it into those narratives. Is that a fair thing to say, Lucy? I don't know if I made myself clear.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think what we have to understand is that these ancestral stories, they don't have any inherent meaning of their own. We're always going to be interpreting them within the light of our own experience, or spiritual experience, or cultural framings, and so on and so forth. What I've noticed within the pagan / occult / spiritual community is that people are desperately trying to get back to their ancestral stories. But I was talking to a Yoruba spirit worker a while ago, and what she said to me, she was talking about one of her goddesses, which is a lady called Oshun, who is like talking about like she's the sweet waters, she is love, she is, you know, like all of the things that people would associate with the divine feminine. Okay, but what that spirit worker told me was she is also the vulture. Okay, she also comes as the vulture to peck away what isn't serving, what is rotted, what is diseased. And I was going through a very difficult time, and that practitioner sat with me very kindly, and she says sometimes the lady comes as the sweet waters, and sometimes she comes as the vulture. And she said, perhaps look in your own traditions to see if you can find examples of a similar kind of thing. And I did. I went back and I looked at my own mythology, and sure enough, I found something similar going on in my own ancestral stories. It's not about stealing from other people, but sometimes there's a lot of wisdom in sitting and listening to how other people engage with their own ancestral stories. And I think pagans and occultists and stuff like that are very vulnerable to that kind of retrojection, that past projection. It's not projection; it's retrojection. It's like taking what seems to be truthful, like men should be men and strong and warriors and go out and I don't know, like wrestle polar bears or whatever is going through their head, and be protectors and be providers, and they think that is how our ancestors lived, and that is not how our ancestors lived. All of the evidence that we have, from deep time in the past shows that we have never been able to survive without community. And that's why I don't know whether you were here for the incel that we had on the panel, but I deliberately asked him, what is your community? Because women who decenter men still have community, but these men who go their own way and like are ruggedly independent and never have any friends, and they're completely isolated because they're not actually connecting to an ancestral past. They are buying into like effectively Viking drag, or sensitive New Age man drag, or this kind of thing where community is not centered. Children are not centered. Our survival as actually community, isn't compatible with centering men as the top dogs, and that's kind of what I think that Deep Time can teach us with the records and so on.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you. We're just going to bring in Alien person at the top if you're still here. Alien on the panel, are you still here? You've been waiting for quite some time. Hello there. How are you today?
Good, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So this is the topic of conversation today. I don't know how much you've heard, because obviously you've been waiting for quite some time. This subject is about men being finished. Us as women, we've been on the receiving end of a lot of the problems with men: mental problems, physical problems, social problems, financial problems. And all of these things that I've listed on the screen here are things that men need to heal within themselves. So what do you have to add in regards to that?
Well, I feel like we cause a lot of problems, but we also have a lot of solutions as well. So,
What solutions?
to say that we're mentally, physically, socially, financially, emotionally, intellectually, occupationally, environmentally, and spiritually. So, I mean,
those are
men
essentially,
are.
I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called the 8 pillars of wellness. So these are pillars that every single human being should actually be able to regulate where they are in the scale. And generally, a lot of the problems, most of the problems in the world are down to men. So you say that men have a lot of problems and they have the solution to problems, but the world is very broken because of men and masculine energy. So what do you think these solutions should be? I mean, if you're saying that men are the fixers, what are the solutions to some of these problems?
Well, we're leading in almost every aspect of life, aren't we? We'd like pioneer, and we're the innovators, we're the builders, we maintain everything, we keep everything running.
You're talking about physical things like putting up a house. How is building a house actually helping the world?
Not just physical. Physical is one aspect, sure.
But that's not a solution to the problems. Like, we literally have so many terrible things that happen in the world. Building a house does not help heal humanity.
What's the problem? No, but we innovate, we pioneer, we lead in science, we lead in travel, exploration, we lead in innovation, we lead in infrastructure. Like the very phone and the Wi-Fi that you're talking on is thanks to a man.
Sir, you're not hearing me. You see, guys, he's talking about inventions that he actually didn't even make. So he's talking about other men who have done stuff. I want you personally, alien person, to talk about the things that you do as part of fixing the problem of humanity. What do you do personally? Don't rest on other man's achievements. What are you doing personally as a man to improve society? Alien, you can unmute.
Well, you're the one that's broadly generalizing all men, saying all men are finished, and it's like all the problems are thanks to men.
No. Does the prompt say all men?
No.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't say all
men.
Men
are finished.
We've got men in this space who've discussed. Then you had men on the panel who you actually listened to. You've sat here and listened to the conversation. These are other men who are actually able to understand the comment. I asked you personally, you alien, what are you doing personally? You personally to heal humanity or to be a good person? Like what are you doing? What are the traits that you have?
I'm raising my family to the best of my ability.
And what does that entail?
I provide for other people.
What does that entail?
It entails feeding them, taking them to school, looking after my missus, providing a home for them.
That's what
teaching
women
them,
do. That's what women
guiding
do.
them.
That's what women do. What do you do as a man?
What do I do as a man? Well, I pay all the bills because my missus couldn't do that.
Okay, you're not understanding the
But why can't your
conversation,
missus-
unfortunately. 1 minute, Lisa. You're not actually understanding the conversation. Your understanding of humanity is kind of here.
I provide a life for
1 minute,
3
1 minute,
people.
1 minute,
I provide.
1 minute. Why? Don't get upset. Your understanding of what this conversation, what we're talking about.
No, I'm not
What-
upset. I don't think you understand.
1 minute. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you understand the conversation.
I think it's you that needs help.
1 minute. Why do you keep unmuting yourself? Why do you keep unmuting yourself? Why? Understand the conversation first before we continue, because you're thinking about things on a very surface level. You're talking about, I provide. That's not the conversation here. That's not the conversation. This is about going to a deeper level of understanding somebody mentally. Do you understand the needs of your children? Do they actually, and I don't want you to talk about anything to do with your children. I'm just saying what should be happening in your family, right? Take this with a pinch of salt, because I don't know you, I don't know your family, I don't really want to talk about a family, but I'm just giving you an example. To be able to look after your family mentally, they should be able to come to you to talk about everything that they have to deal with. Discrimination, bullying, any problems that they have with friends, any external issues with family, anything to do with any sexual harassment, if that happens. I don't know if you've got boys or girls, your wife as well, your missus, how she deals with other men. Are you providing a safe space enough for them to talk about those things with you? Okay, this is what we're talking about here. When it comes to financial things, you already just talked about how your wife is not financially capable, and so that is where you feel like you're a good man, because traditionally men have only had purpose when they're building houses, like what you said, and when they're providing money. That's not the 2026 that we're living in, sir. That is a very old school way of thinking.
You're
We're
kind of
talking
just
about-
trailing
look,
off
why
on
are
a
you
bit of a
interrupting me?
tangent, saying.
You've got a problem, sir. I don't know why you're interrupting me. I've just told you I'm trying to help you understand.
I think you're just
Okay,
waffling now,
mute-
honestly.
I'll
Let me
mute
talk,
myself
I'm going
and
to go.
I'll mute myself and then you take over. Go ahead, say what you want to say.
So I provide all of that for my family. The fact is, men are not finished. It's like we're the ones that are leading the way. You know, we look to you for your feminine energy. It's not all about men, but to say that all men are finished and all of the things that you're listing is just ignorant and stupid. Obviously, there's some men out there that are stupid and useless and they're not functioning at their full potential, just like women are. But men are leading everything, you know. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, do you feel
That's Captain Heady Breather.
do you feel better for getting that off your chest, Alien? Do you feel better?
Well, I just think that you have this like strange viewpoint that's like kind of almost like antagonistic against men when you don't really have to be like that.
Like I said,
We very
do you
much
feel
need men
better?
in society.
Do you feel better?
I mean, I don't feel any different. I'm trying to have a conversation.
But you're not
So,
having a
I don't know if you're,
conversation
like,
that we're talking
irritated.
about. Like I said, if you actually took time to listen to the conversation of what we've literally been sitting here talking about for 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours.
You've just been waffling nonsense.
Oh my God, honestly, this is why the prompt is as it is. This is literally why the prompt is as it is. Unfortunately, Alien, we
Men
have
are
too many
finished.
men.
I think it's
We
you
have
that's
too many-
finished.
We have too many men who come up here not understanding the prompt and then proving the prompt correctly. I've already said it doesn't say all men, and you can immediately.
No, you just live in a delusional little.
Immediately, you said, but all men. And I said, it doesn't say all men. And I said, tell me about yourself. And then you were like, yeah, but men. You don't hear yourself. And then you tried to say, again, your protection or what you're doing as a man is very surface level. I've tried to explain to you what this topic
It's not surface
is
level.
about.
Alien, if I can ask, if from what you have described, my dear, okay, you have described basically the most basic and average of my female friends. What you consider to be the peak of your responsibility and the things that you are doing. I can ring up any one of my girlfriends and they will do exactly the same thing. So,
Well, no, I didn't get a chance to fully explain the full extent of everything I do as a man.
I went
okay,
on mute. I went on mute and I gave you the floor. To
Keep
discuss
yourself
this
on
thing.
mute for a minute. Just keep yourself on mute for a minute. Go on. Carry on, bud.
There, you're dropped now. You had plenty of time, ample time to say what you needed to say. You didn't listen to anything that I had to say. You were over talking. You were literally sitting up here on the panel, obviously not listening to the conversation. The ego is wild with you, alien. The ego is wild. Again, like I tried to do, is try to help you understand that this is not a surface level conversation, but you are continuing to say surface level. And the problem is that yes, this panel and this conversation does say men are finished. And I hate having to explain English grammar, particularly to English men. It does not say all men are finished. It does not say that. But again, you make your stance very clear. If you think you are that man who is finished, you are the person that is finished, alien. You are the person that is finished, because all you're doing is saying, I can provide for my family. And I literally explained that you needed to be an emotional support. You needed to be an actual safe space for this. And you didn't say any of those things. Even when you were unmuted, you didn't say any of those things. You just like said, I provide money for the family because my wife hasn't got a job. Like, what the fuck? And like Lucy said, is that we're all doing those things. We are literally all doing those things ourselves.
it's the bare minimum. Okay, you're supposed to like guys like Alien. I'm sorry, love. Okay, but you want credit for doing things you are supposed to be doing anyway. Okay, it's like, oh, I take care of my kids. You're supposed to take care of your kids. I take care of my partner. You're supposed to take care of your partner. My question to every man who comes up here, okay, and in my own lives as well, okay, is what are you doing in your community to be community to other people? Who do you go to when you're having a bad day? Okay, are you just going to offload on your already overworked partner? Or do you have a collection of friends that you can turn to who are not women, okay, to basically so that you don't have women doing the emotional labor for you, okay? It just, it beggars belief, like you are impoverished, so spiritually, emotionally impoverished in your lives that you think that the bare minimum is something that you can get credit for, and you can't. That is not the world we live in anymore, and this is why men are in crisis, and why the concept of manhood as it exists, as the podcast bros are telling you, is bullshit. It's a lie, okay? And none of you are prepared to just listen to women, okay? And you know, like you will listen to other men over women and then wonder why you're lonely and are projecting all over the place. Sorry, folks, I've ranted again. I am going to yield the floor to our gorgeous host. There you go.
No, thank you, Lucy. No, not at all. Yeah, it's this projection that we're obviously seeing a lot is so funny. And in the live we had this morning, it was very much understanding that a lot of these men, even in relationships and even in family, are lonely. Like completely so, because you're talking about having a wife and child, but yet you're here with us here online talking about men, you know, and talking about women and talking about me. And I always say this a lot of the time: if you're literally so fulfilled in life and you've got those things that you think are very, very awesome, then why are you here with us, right? I'm not lonely. The women here are not lonely. We're educated and we're connecting. That's one thing that we are doing. We're understanding our independence. And like Bard Lucy says, you lot are proud of doing the bare minimum. We can do all this stuff that you're doing with our hands tied behind our backs. We don't need to use like so much mental strength or physical strength to do all these things. We do these things with our eyes closed. You know, I've talked about the things that I have done in my life in particular, and I've done them mostly by myself. The things that men would never even been able to do, I've done. And I've done them like just in my sleep, essentially, in my sleep. And this is why we're talking about, and I've said on the previous live about just how different men and women are, how so far apart we are. I feel very sorry for women in relationships that their men are still on this level of understanding of, again, they are still stuck in the programming of patriarchy. You said it yourself just there, Lucy. Also, Hermit Sapien also just say it. He's being the elite, good little boy, keeper of women and child. Like, that's it. If you're a man who is doing the absolute basic and the bare minimum, you're not evolving to the level that you're supposed to evolve to. You know, this is why we have these conversations. This is why we have this space. This is why women are connecting more, because we know we are the ones who are evolving, and we're asking you to evolve with us. And it is your choice whether you want to or not, because the world is moving on with or without you anyway. You can come with us or you stay behind, and we leave you where you are. You're not invited otherwise. You're not welcome to come with us into the future. You will become the past and you will become obsolete. And that rhetoric that you will push will go down to your son. If you've got a son, that will go down to him, and he will not procreate because women don't want that shit. Like, literally, we've already decided as this generation of women that we are not procreating anymore. So if then you're telling your son, oh yeah, I want you to have kids, he ain't gonna have kids, because the next generation of women are gonna be way far away from your son. That's how it actually happens. This becomes generational. It is not just about today. It is about what we do now and what happens in the future. Lucy.
I think this is really, it is really fascinating, because they keep bringing these things which really, and what I'm saying is, like, the average, your average friend is like an exceptional man. You know, it's like the exception. It's I can think of like half a dozen like female friends that I have who are off the scale, okay, in terms of the way they show up for people, the way they get, you know, the way they support, the way they are each other's cheerleaders. I've had women I don't know cheerleading me. Okay, but just random women from the internet cheering me on, okay, and like that kind of level of solidarity and support just doesn't seem to be there for men. They don't cheer each other on, okay. They are always tearing each other down. If you get a group of men together in a group, the first thing they do is they start ragging each other. They start humiliating each other. They start with these pecking orders and dominance. They never build each other up, okay, and it's so catastrophically sad, okay, because the people picking up all that emotional labor from wounded masculinity are the women in these men's lives. I'm going to challenge the men here to think about your closest relationships to other men, okay, and ask yourselves, are you showing up for your male friends? Are you building them up? Are you encouraging them? Are you doing even a third of what my least engaged bestie does for me, okay? If you are not just doing that, okay, like, how are you living your life? Who is your community? Do you know who your community is? Because when I ask the men here, like, what do you do for your community? Or when Fox asks that, they talk about the people that are somehow they are connected to, they are related to, okay? And they talk about doing the bare minimum, and they think that that's community, and it's not. What are you doing for your community? Who are you showing up for? Are you being a good friend? Okay. And I'm sorry, you know, and sometimes I despair sometimes. Okay. And that's why men, as we know it, are finished, but they don't have to be finished. They can like make a new version of masculinity that people want to be around, because at the moment we don't want to be around. And I think also the other thing is that we're constantly told that we are being angry, okay, when we're just having conversations and a laugh, okay. We're constantly told that we're engaging in an outrage mill and stuff like that. And you know, this is you know, you have to learn how to communicate, how to engage, how to build community, how to actually show up for each other. Okay. And that's, you know, and this is the really, it's so weird. It's just like, it's not even normal. If you realize how abnormal this behavior looks like from the outside, tearing each other down, chest beating, what is it called? Frame mogging, that incel thing, kind of like, you know, it's not even normal. Okay. It's not even like, what are you doing?
It really is crazy. Like, we've become aware, I think, isn't it, in maybe the last 5 or 10 years, that men are performing for other men. Like, all they're doing is seeking masculine and male approval and men's approval all of the time. And you're right in everything that you said. And I've talked about the hierarchy with men before, about who's an alpha, who's a beta, who's a sigma, who's a gamma. Wherever they put themselves in this hierarchy doesn't benefit themselves. And they don't realize that they're phasing women out. They are literally, and have been, phasing women out of their lives with this behavior. And yet they still want to have us in their lives, but we're not compatible with that behavior. And you're absolutely right. They have no idea what it looks like from the outside looking in. Like, they look fucking ridiculous. They look so fucking stupid. They don't even have the ability to feel embarrassed. Like, this whole looks maxing thing as well. I literally have to Google all of these terms now. I feel like such an old lady when I'm out here now on the internet, and I'm just like, what does this mean? What does this mean? They got this phrase and they got this phrase and that. And then this looks maxing thing, I'm just like, you look ridiculous. Like, you look so stupid. Oh my God, you look ridiculous. And you're not doing it for us. You're doing it for other men. Other men. Yeah, Urban Dictionary is literally going to be bookmarked Hermit Sapien. It is. And I don't know if you guys saw, I literally have to Google. Seriously, during this live, I've seen some of the comments down there, and I saw somebody say, are there any 304s here? I don't know if you guys saw this or have seen it before. I said, what does that mean? I looked it up. A 304 woman is a slang term for a promiscuous woman. It's a very derogatory term for women. A 304. So I obviously blocked that person. I don't know if you've heard of that phrase or seen it before, but that's another one for your Urban Dictionary. A 304 woman.
I mean, this is the thing. This idea that value is somehow how dictated to how many lovers a woman has, and all I can say to that is coming from people who either cannot find any intimacy at all, okay? Somehow think that someone not having experience with intimacy has a higher value, probably because they can't compare how terrible you are, okay, if you do actually manage to convince someone to get intimate with them. And it's so weird, you know. It's like, it's not even normal. Like, what a weird thing to say to someone. Oh well, you must be a 304. And like, I'm gonna have to go look it up, okay? But like, it's very, very strange. It's strange behavior. We are a species which has a very sweet tooth for intimacy. And I have seen the full gamut of, you know, like every single type of sexuality under the sun. Okay. I'm by myself. Okay. And I'm still at the age of 48, fat and Scottish and living in rural Scotland. Okay. I'm still getting more intimacy than these guys. So, you know, it's like, you know, the problem is not how you look. The problem is your personalities, like this contraceptive personalities that these guys have developed. Yeah. Like, nobody wants to go near you, you know.
And that's why it is a modern thing now. And that's why I said men are stuck in the past, because they still have this old programming to think that they're just going to have relationships in a bed. No. We just want to cuddle as well, like, and we want to cuddle in the kitchen, and we want to have somebody who's going to listen to our problems, and you be able to do the same to us. Everything that we can do, we want you to do the same, and that's it. That's what we call equality. Like, men think that equality is literally just earning more money and having more rights. No, it's literally in the behavior as well. How women can provide a safe space for men. We want the same thing. but apparently that seems to be too much to ask for. But Lucy, hopefully you're still there, because I am going to end the live now. It's been almost three hours, guys, I think. So I'm going to end it. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you to the mods down there for doing what they do. I love you guys. Thank you so much as well for everybody who's joined. We've got This Is Beth mod, thank you so much. Kimberly, thank you so much. Dutch Queen, thank you so much. Hermit Sapien, moderator, thank you so much. Pedro Domingo, thank you so much. Jesus, thank you so much. You're making some great comments down there. Thank you. A very secure man, I must say, as well down there. Mina, thank you. Toxic Phantom, thank you so much. Ella Haynes, Paulie, thank you. You guys, Kelzer as well, moderator, thank you so much for coming by. Suro, I saw you making some comments about Jewish people. This is not the topic today. This is the topic. It's about men. Your comments are unrelated. Eve as well, thank you. H, Silver Fox, and Prila, thank you so much, guys, for coming. And I think I will be live again on Friday. I'm doing some experimentation because I've noticed the numbers have dropped very significantly for my lives. I said I would do 2 this week to see it. We got up to, I think, about 30 something, which again is still kind of low for this number, but I'm always appreciative of everybody who comes here. And I will be on again on Friday with another topic, and it will probably be about English people, I have to say. So that's another sort of teaser for what Friday's topic will be. But thank you so much, and especially to Bard Lucy, because she's been on the panel since the very beginning and shared amazing stories. She's obviously talked a lot about paganism as well, which I think is a really important conversation to have, and I actually want to discuss more of that with you, actually, and I want to see you more in spaces talking about paganism, because as I do talk about is the original Britons and the original Celtic people, the people were here that were following all of the traditions before the Anglo-Saxons came and stripped so much of your identity. So I would love to learn more about that for myself as well. So thank you, everybody.
And may I say how lovely it is always to talk to you, Fox, okay? Your perspectives, your charisma, I also want to get tips on your nails as well and stuff like that. And I just want to say that it's always such a pleasure talking to you, and your lives are always so brilliant. I'm sorry I've not been on as much as I would like to be, but it's always lovely to be on your panel. I learn so much when you're here, and many thanks to all the mods as well. So I will bid you all good night, and I am so thrilled, and I'm going to come back on, and perhaps you could come on tomorrow. You were on my live yesterday, so yeah, we can certainly do stuff about culture rather than cults, yes, which is what white supremacy and patriarchy is. It's just a cult, just another cult. Okay, so culture, not cults. I will see you all. Okay, take care.
Thank you so much. Please, everybody, make sure that they follow Bard Lucy. She has amazing content on her page, and also, of course, her lives are fantastic. We had a great, it was all Scottish people, and I was the foreigner in that space on the live yesterday, which was absolutely brilliant as well. And I learned so much from Lucy, really and truly, and she's just a wonderful person as well. And I remember when I first came across Lucy, having the panels where I'd have Scottish Lucy and there'd be Irish Owen, I think his name was, and I was like, we need a Welsh person and we need English, I think we probably did have some English at the time, so it was basically uniting against the English, which was brilliant. And I wanted to actually do a panel where I had all of you guys up here to talk about your history a lot more, and of course we had Irish, Irish Owen, I think his name was. I still want to do that, and I still want to see if he's around, because he also did have a break, funny enough, around the same time as you did, Lucy. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll just put the prompt on one day to say I need Welsh, Irish and Scottish people to come up here and diss the English. So I'll do that at some point. But again, thank you so much to everybody. And yeah, I think it's good night to you guys in the UK and wherever you are in the world as well. So take care. Kisses to you as well, Lucy. Bye guys. Take care.